Welcome to Shawn and Carter Have a Podcast. My name is Shawn.
I'm Carter.
And we now have a final goal for where the direction that Shawn and Carter Have a Podcast is going, because Joss Whedon announced when the Avengers 2 is coming out.
Yes.
So we know that we have to podcast until at least May 1st, 2015.
Let me get my calendar out.
Okay.
See what I'm doing.
Just flip through here and...
All right.
Oh, my calendar runs out in February of next year. Shoot.
My calendar is on my computer. It runs out when the battery dies. Well, there will be milestones, obviously, because they will have the movies in between.
Right.
Maybe we'll just keep doing what we did previously. Like, okay, we're going to watch all the Marvel movies again and talk about them. And then by the time we get to the Avengers 2, we'll have watched Iron Man like 7 times.
Our podcast will be cyclical.
Yeah. Yeah, it just keeps going back. And keeps... Yeah.
And then more Batman, and then, Star Wars again.
Well, because they're going to, Joseph Gordon-Levitt will end up doing a sequel.
They'll do the whole Justice League thing.
That's happening, but Nolan is not going to be a part of it.
What do you mean by part of it?
He's not directing it.
Right.
He's not directing it.
I think he'll end up producing it.
Yeah.
He's producing The Man of Steel.
He's doing that too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's taking a little more hands-off role, it's like...
He's doing what Jon Favreau did. He, helped kickstart a franchise, and then he sits back and collects the checks.
That's true. It's sort of an unusual franchise, though. It's not a franchise yet, either. It was just, 3 Batman movies that could have ended. That could have just been okay, the DC universe gets no more love, and now it's I think that they're trying to do the whole what Joss is doing.
Yeah, they want to be what Disney and Marvel are doing.
Yeah, did you see the Superman movie that came out 4 years ago?
Yes,
with that random
Batman
actor?
Batman. Superman Returns.
Yeah, I did not like that. With Kevin Spacey, of all people, playing Lex Luthor, which was a very odd casting choice, I thought.
Well, I don't know. What do you think of Gene Hackman's original? Don't you think that's kind of weird, too? I've always thought that was weird.
Yeah. Now, so full disclosure to everyone, I just downloaded the DC Comics app onto my iPad, and I'm reading some of these. And I kind of know a little bit about Superman, and... My impression is, so Lex Luthor eventually becomes the president of the United States. Isn't he supposed to be kind of charming and, he's a schemer, but he's brilliant. And,
he obviously gets pretty far.
Yeah, he's I don't know. I think you're right. Gene Hackman also doesn't seem really right for that role.
Yeah, it made it I have not seen Superman 3 or 4. I saw Superman 1 and 2 before I saw Superman Returns because I wanted to get the right story. And as I was watching Gene Hackman, I was like, this is practically the 60s Batman. It's just kind of goofy.
Yeah, well, what do you think about the Joker in the original Batman movie? I thought that was
goofy,
poor casting. Yeah, but the movie was goofy as well.
Yeah, that's the Batman that I never really liked. My wife and her brother love that Batman. They want Batman to be silly.
Why?
I don't know. But there's definitely a contingent of people who like the zany Batman with the crazy characters.
The Adam West TV show was zany, and I have something that I'll send to you. That a friend of mine sent me. It's a whole bunch of characters in the Batman universe.
Is it pictures of all of them?
Yeah,
I saw it. It was on Reddit.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's from the animated series, which I watched when I was a kid,
right,
and from the Adam West series and the Nolan series and I believe they call it the Burton Schumacher. Yeah, universe. Those movies were not... Batman's fine. I really don't remember Batman Returns? Batman... What was
Returns is the second one.
I don't really remember that one. And then Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Those movies were...
Yeah, those are really bad. Really bad.
Those are really bad.
Tim Burton wanted to wanted to make the Frank Miller Batman, which is basically what Christopher Nolan eventually got to do.
Right.
But the studio was just like, no, we want the kids to see it. And Burton was like, haven't you seen my other movies?
Yeah, I mean, he tried, and there is some of the tone, well, I can only speak to Batman. A lot of the tone is similar. You know, it's dark, and a lot of the zany wackiness that the Joker and his cadre bring in has a very dangerous like flavor to it.
Yeah.
Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Those were very silly. I've seen them. I didn't even know this until someone brought it up. Bane was in Batman and Robin. He was a character.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was just like a thug bad guy who looked ridiculous.
He had a luchador mask on.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
I
think I saw that on the graphic, which like rang a bell. I was like, oh, he must have been in there somewhere.
Yeah. That was the one where I think by the Val Kilmer days, at least when George Clooney took over, that was when the Batman suit got nipples.
Yeah. Everyone likes to talk about that.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I mean, I know that because I've seen it so many times. Like the evolution of the bat suit.
Well, anyway, Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon.
Joss Whedon has been appointed by the Disney and Marvel people to
the powers that be.
He is definitely writing and directing the Avengers 2. And not only that, but they have locked him down for some kind of exclusivity deal that means from now until then, he's basically going to have a part in every Marvel film release that is taking place.
I assume, every credit for those movies, he will be one of the executive producers.
Yeah.
And I was trying and failing, and I think I'll still fail to describe this to Sean, but like he this is easier. He's basically like the showrunner, but for all of those movies. So sometimes those are like in TV shows. A lot of times those people don't get producer credits, but they're called like the creator, and they get the whatever, or they're like a supervising producer. They get like some sort of weird credit, like who am I thinking of? Aaron Sorkin was the showrunner for West Wing for 4 years. He was one of the producers, and then he wrote some of them. And then that duty fell onto one of the other producers who was not a writer. And, there is no like formal title showrunner, but like that's sort of, that's the person in charge.
Right.
So he's going to take that kind of role for movies. I can't think of another series of movies. I can't think of another film situation like this. Can you?
I don't think it's really ever happened before. As soon as we saw the Avengers coming and we were like, well, after that they're going to do the whole thing again and do sequels and then Avengers 2, I think that this is the first time that's really happened, and it's given them this unique opportunity to appoint one person and be like, you're in charge of the Avengers 2, so do whatever you want to spice up little things in all of the movies that lead up to it to just make it even better. And that's what he's going to do.
Right. He won't write those movies. He certainly won't direct them. He won't be the lead producer of the movie. Like the way that I've always thought, like the executive producer of a movie is like the CEO of that business. He's definitely not going to do that either, because like, why? Why would you want to do that if you didn't have to? But he'll just sort of be there to make sure that they all are kind of a piece and that they're connected. I think we'll see some like nice continuity between all of those movies, and I bet that will mean that the end scene, the final scene at the end of the credits they'll all be really good. I bet he'll be personally involved in all of those. That's my prediction.
I'm very excited for the possibilities.
I'm super excited.
I think Iron Man 3 is actually already done shooting or close to it.
Did they start the principal photography? Is the scene of them driving away, did they just shoot that for the Avengers, or had they already started the photography when the Avengers came out?
They had not started the photography yet. No.
Okay. Okay.
I know they were shooting it last month because I saw Jon Favreau tweet some pictures from the set.
Oh, gotcha.
They were shooting in, I think, New Mexico.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So we'll have. So will it be the same? Do you know? Is it going to be the same order? Iron Man, then.
I don't think
Hulk.
they've announced.
Oh, they're not going to do. Well, they won't do. They're not going to do a Hulk movie though. Will they?
I don't think they've announced what they're doing.
Man. Okay.
I think a lot of it is still kind of shrouded in mystery. They've given us the hope of 2015 Avengers 2, but other than that, it's kind of sparse details.
Well, coming off of talking about Buffy and sort of learning more about Joss Whedon, this guy has had like a crazy career trajectory. Crazy, right?
His next movie that's coming out is a black and white adaptation of Shakespeare.
What play?
It's shoot. Now it's escaping me. It's one that was done in the 90s with Denzel and Keanu.
Much Ado About Nothing.
Much Ado About Nothing.
He's redoing Much Ado About Nothing?
He shot it last year at his house in 12 days.
Was it on an iPhone?
I don't know. It might have been. And it's doing the festival circuit. Actually, the press release for it is on their website, and it is absolutely hilarious because it's like, it says something about like, we're doing the press circuit first because this is a snooty film, and that's the kind of things that snooty films do. So, yeah, I don't even know if it's going to be wide release or if it'll just go to video on demand and DVD or what.
It's got Nathan Fillion and Clark Gregg. Like, Clark Gregg is Joss Whedon's Josh Molina.
It's got Sean Marr, who was in Firefly as well. Nathan Fillion was as well.
I have the Wikipedia open. It's the first feature of Bellwether Pictures, a micro studio, whatever that means, created by Whedon and his wife.
It means shot in their house, is what it means.
They used handheld cameras.
Their second production, I'm predicting now, will be Dr. Horrible too.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that since Dr. Horrible, and I mean, I don't know what they would do.
They're all game. Everyone wants to do it.
That's how I found out about Joss Whedon, was Dr. Horrible. I think a lot of people like me found out about him like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The internet generation.
Anyone who hadn't yet caught on with Firefly got sucked in with Dr. Horrible.
Yeah, but I think that, Buffy is different. It's sort of distant. And then there was Firefly and then Serenity. And so I've been studying Joss Whedon. I'm trying to understand him a little bit more. And that had just like a very...
I can't wait for the day that you watch Firefly and you're finally like, I get it. I get it now.
I'm gonna one day. But I mean, like, a very tiny amount of people saw that. Like, not a lot of people saw that. And then, Dr. Horrible was huge, and now he's just getting bigger and bigger. I mean, like, Cabin in the Woods was a pretty big release and a big project. It had a non-trivial budget. And then Avengers, I mean, Jesus. Biggest movie of the summer. Maybe the biggest movie of the year. Although I think there was some stupid movie is way ahead of all of the other movies this year, just because it had a huge foreign release. Some animated movie. I don't remember. I saw some people complaining about that.
Really?
Well, yeah, I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. Could be wrong.
I'm looking at the yearly. I already had Box Office Mojo open.
What's topping?
2012. It says Avengers is top.
Okay.
This is the order: Avengers, Dark Knight Rises, Hunger Games, Spider-Man, Brave. Then the Lorax, which I didn't even know it did that well.
I didn't know that was this year, but
yeah, it's already out on DVD.
Oh, jeez, I don't.
And then Ted. Did I talk to you about Ted at all?
No.
Okay, so do you know what it is?
Yeah,
that Seth MacFarlane movie.
Yeah, a whole bunch of my friends went and saw it.
I went to see it with incredibly low expectations, and it ended up being a lot better than I thought it would be.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
I think I went in expecting, like, Family Guy light or something, And
Sure.
it was actually a lot more touching and heartfelt than I would have expected it to be.
Yeah.
And it stayed, it might still be in the top 10. It stayed in the top 10 box office for weeks. So apparently it's made $213 million.
That's crazy.
Domestic. That's great.
You know what? I'm going to say that's not great. You know why?
Why?
It's feeding this damn Seth MacFarlane empire.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It's just like, if it had been a flop, it would have been like, okay, maybe we need to like pull back a little on the things that we're letting Seth MacFarlane do.
You know what's really
with our
weird?
money.
I met someone who really likes American Dad, but not the other Seth MacFarlane things. And I was like, you don't even watch Family Guy? And they were like, no, I love American Dad. And I was like, how's that possible?
Okay, so I will say right now that Family Guy was a huge part of my development as a teenager and part of the things that I like, right? And it was part of my, you know, I was a little too young for South Park to have that kind of influence. Like it was, South Park was more of a subversive influence because it came out when I was like in 4th grade. So it was something that you weren't allowed to see. So it was very like, ooh, this is dangerous. And I'm watching something with, people cursing and whatever. But Family Guy came out when I was like 13. And like, it was just something that I watched. And I was I watched like it's almost like this will never happen. Well, I don't know if it will never happen again, but if you were my age or like within a couple years either direction of my age when Family Guy came out, you watched it on TV for 2.5 seasons, 3 seasons, and then watched it get canceled, bought the DVDs, watched them over and over and over again, repeated the same jokes, like got excited when you heard about like,
oh no, oh yeah.
I mean, like, I was on a transatlantic flight to London, and I was sitting next to someone who was watching Family Guy with headphones on in like 2003.
And he knew every line.
And I could just watch it, and I could watch it, and since I knew all the lines, I didn't need to hear it because I could hear it.
You're
in my
still
head.
Laughing at the punchlines. The person beside you is like, "How is this person hearing this?"
It's almost like Arrested Development, but for like uncultured teenagers,
Yeah.
Because it was a really small, tiny thing. It was only like 52 episodes total, or 48 episodes. It was a gem. And I think at this point of watching what has happened since, I really regret that my generation and the people who bought the DVDs and put pressure on Fox and sided with Seth MacFarlane, that we got it back on air, because it's been on for like 9 seasons. I don't know any of the new stuff very much, and I think it's basically hit or miss. And now Seth MacFarlane owns Saturday night on Fox, and now
I think
he's
it's on
making
Sunday night, but sure.
Sunday, whatever. I don't know yeah, that's right. But it's like now he has this huge empire, and I feel alienated from it almost, and
it's
like,
partially your fault.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we all got exactly what we wanted, and it ruined everything.
I don't think I found out about it until after it had already been canceled.
Yeah.
I remember going to my friend's house, and he was like, "Have you ever watched Family Guy?" And I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Hold on." And he put one on, and I was like, "No, what is this? It's great." And he's like, "Yeah, it got canceled." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it came back.
Those 2 boxes of DVDs played such a like huge role in my growing up. And when the Stewie movie came out before they started, I think, the new stuff, and I remember really liking it. I was like, oh my god, this is great. And then once season 4 started happening, I immediately was just like, something's wrong. Like, this is not, oh no, what have we done? It's like I'm the dad in Pet Sematary, and like oh god, my son is like an evil zombie son now. This isn't right. What have I done?
Well, anyway, Ted is better than you might expect. Is my entire point. Also, Mila Kunis is in it, so how can you go wrong?
That's right. Well, before we move on, Joss Whedon has been doing other things besides, becoming the overlord of the Marvel Universe in film. He made a vlog. He made a vlog.
He made a vlog.
Yeah.
It's on a shitty webcam like mine.
I love this. He pimped Sleepwalk with Me with Mike Birbiglia. Although, in a Joss Whedon-y kind of way.
So I'll make sure that this is in the info. Joss basically says that his movie, The Avengers, is down to what, like 500 theaters at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And that's very disappointing. And this new startup, this jerk named Mike Birbiglia, is releasing a new movie in something like, I think he said at the time it was like 80 theaters. Yeah. And he said, we can't allow this to happen. This man is going to overtake the number of theaters that mine is playing in. So if you can, boycott this movie. And if you can't, because it's not playing near you, call your local theater, ask them to play it, and then boycott it with me.
I don't know how they got him to do this.
He must be a friend of
This American
Life. Yes, because they produced the movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he knows Mike Birbiglia like directly, but he definitely knows the This American Life guys because he was on their first live theater cast, whatever that was, with Ira.
Yeah, we've talked about that one before, so maybe you don't need to put it in the notes or the links or whatever. But that one is excellent. That also had Mike was on that one too.
He was?
It was Return to the Scene of the Crime, and he got hit by the car.
Oh, I didn't realize that was in that one. He was actually in the second one that was just like 2 months ago as well.
Yeah, they were on the same one. It's Mike Birbiglia, Joss Whedon, and Dan Savage.
Okay, I don't know why I forgot Mike Birbiglia was in there.
I'm sure they met. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they live in a small world, and Joss Whedon decided to give Mike a little bit of help.
Yeah, I mean I hate that. Let me rephrase. The people who have collaborated with Mike and the This American Life team on making YouTube videos that are awesome have been pretty cool. Like Joss doing this and Terry Gross doing the... Oh my god, that's so good.
Fresh Air 2. Absolutely hysterical.
That was so funny. I just can't even... Because you think the joke is her like trying to get him to wrap up, and then it's that whole bank robbery.
It's bank robbery.
I loved that.
The guy who is playing her husband in that short is in Mike Birbiglia's movie. I think he plays his dad.
The trailer is excellent. I have found myself going back and watching the trailer just because I really, really like it. Yeah,
the weirdest thing is about Mike Birbiglia and the fact that I like him so much is I know every story he's told. And I know the Sleepwalk With Me story because I've heard him tell parts of it in like his original stand-up. And then I saw Sleepwalk With Me, the tour. No, it wasn't called Sleepwalk With Me. It was My Girlfriend's Boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically tells the whole story of meeting the woman who would become his wife. And I know that that's the story of the movie, but I'm going to go see it again. I'm going to buy it on DVD, and I'm going to I love this guy. I'm so excited to see the movie.
Well, in this story, I've been following Mike Birbiglia since probably around 2008.
I think that's probably about when I found out about him.
And one of the ways that I found out about him was I was watching an Eddie Izzard interview, and someone said, "Who are your favorite comedians right now?" And he said, I really like Louis C.K., and then he said some things about Louis C.K., and then he mentioned someone else, and then he said, "Oh, and I really like this guy, Mike Birbiglia. His comedy is very surreal, and it just really I really, relate to it." And
I can't believe Eddie Izzard gave him a shout out.
Yeah, this was a long time ago too. He was doing a an iTunes, I think it was like an iTunes live special kind of thing. Like they did a little like 300 seat thing in London and then they recorded it and put it on iTunes. And he was telling some jokes, but he was mostly getting interviewed by, I want to say Stephen Fry, but I don't know. I love the comedy, like the comic world. It's just all inbred and everyone knows everybody. So that's when I'm like, oh, who is this Mike Birbiglia guy? So I downloaded one of his albums and it was My Secret Public Journal.
Right.
And I loved that. So then I got everything else of his and I kept following him. And one of the things of his that I discovered was he did a 12-minute. Have you heard of The Moth?
Yes.
He did just the story of his sleepwalking and jumping out of the window.
Yes.
For the
okay.
Moth.
Sweet. I was waiting to jump in. The first time I heard Mike Birbiglia was that because they put that on This American Life.
Yes, they did.
I was going through This American Life from the beginning and listening to every single damn episode, and I got to that one, and I was like, who is this guy? And like a month after that, very bizarre coincidence, one of his stand-up things was on Comedy Central. And I was like, okay, now I need to really find out more about this guy.
Well, what's so fascinating is, so his last, let me make sure, I have it on my phone. What the big story that will become this movie, that was his tour, that was his book that he wrote. Have you read the book?
I haven't read the book.
I haven't read the book.
We like you more when you talk, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, reading is hard. I will repeat what I said in the very first episode of Shawn and Carter have a podcast. Do people read?
I don't know. My wife does.
Sleepwalk with Me. Okay. He did a tour called Sleepwalk with Me, or it ended up being called Sleepwalk with Me. He recorded it. I've listened to that album. What's crazy, awesome, fascinating, I think it'll come out a lot in this movie, is that there are stories that he told in My Secret Public Journal and in To Drink Mike. That was another one of his an early album of his. Those stories are about his old girlfriend that you can like see like how they fit in, and he was basically hiding this whole problem of his. And then he like lays it all bare in Sleepwalk with Me, and it's just sort of like, wow, like you are a much more interesting person than I could have possibly realized.
You can tell in the trailer that a major plot point is that he doesn't want to admit that his sleepwalking is a really big problem.
Yeah. And also that he doesn't really come into his own in his stand-up until he starts talking about his life.
Yeah.
So I just think it's fascinating. And also, I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to go out and spend the money to buy those 3 albums on iTunes, To Drink Mike, My Secret Public Journal, and Sleepwalk with Me, and listen to them in chronological order to just see how he becomes a better storyteller over time.
Yeah, it's kind of like witnessing an autobiography happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, To Drink Mike is very jokey. It's very traditional stand-up. Secret Public Journal has lots of, like, little set-piece stories, some of them longer than others, and you can tell, like, he's worked on some of them, and it's not just, like, a joke. It's, like, a 12-minute story.
Yeah.
And then Sleepwalk with Me is, like, an hour-long story.
Yeah, the tour that we saw him last on, My Girlfriend's Boyfriend, or whatever it's called, is it's basically a one-man show, and it's really funny and maybe more so moving. Like, when he gets to the end, and it's just like you get the full emotion of like, this is a really funny story that he's telling, but it's also true, and it happened to him. And look at what he's turned it into. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I believe that's what that tour became, Sleepwalk with Me. Does he end talking about how he told his dad about all of this?
No.
No? Well, interesting. We'll see how it all comes together in the movie. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
The movie comes out on your birthday, right?
Yes, it does, but I don't know really if I'm going to get to see it because it's very limited release, and the one local theater around here that might play it is not, it would seem.
Lame.
I emailed the guy who owns the theater, and he said that he was working on it, but I just checked their page today, and it doesn't look like they're getting it.
Maybe sometime soon. Maybe later.
I'll
I don't know.
cross my fingers and knock on wood.
I will refuse to. Well, I don't do anything illegal ever, but I will not see. I will see this in the theater.
Did you
or
just
I will
say
pay for it.
I don't do anything illegal ever?
I did.
Okay. Just making sure.
I did. But I will, double down on that. I will see this in the theater, or I will buy it on DVD or some digital release. Even though I really, really, really would be tempted to use some sort of other means to get this.
Find it as soon as possible.
And watch it, because I really, really, really want to.
Yeah, I can't wait to throw my money at you, Mike Birbiglia.
Take my money! All right. Well, we're going to talk about Inception next. We're going to do a brief detour into Netflix, but the only thing I was going to say about Netflix is that I found out yesterday that my mom does not have Netflix streaming.
My parents don't either.
Well, she's like, I'm thinking about getting this Netflix streaming, and I'm like, wait. Because I got her an iPad. And I'm like, yeah, you can do all this stuff on it. You can do Netflix, do all this stuff. She's like, oh, that's great. And then she's like, I'm thinking about getting this. Like, that was months ago. So I didn't just get it. That was months ago. And then she just tells me yesterday, I'm thinking about this Netflix streaming. I'm not sure. I'm like, are you out of your mind? How can you have an iPad and be all plugged into the digital world and not have Netflix streaming?
I don't know. My parents have a Nintendo Wii, and they could be using streaming, but they only have the discs.
This boggles my mind. I don't understand. Like, she really likes these like English thriller stuff. A lot of it's on streaming, and I'm just like, there's so much stuff that you would love, and it's available right now when you want. My grandfather, who passed away at the beginning of the year, he had this whole system of like planning out his week between the Netflix DVDs, which I couldn't stand to deal with because they're DVDs, and
yeah. I got rid of them as soon as Quickster was announced. I was like, yep, see ya, bye.
Yep. Yeah, I got rid of that. He had this whole system of managing that and streaming, and planned out his days just like, here, I'm going to watch this on streaming, and then these two DVDs, and then this thing on streaming, and then this thing on streaming. Like,
that's awesome. I want to do that.
He was 82 years old, and he just like, he had no idea how a computer possibly worked, right? Like, for him, it was magic. Like, if anything went at all subtly awry for him, it was like, a big disaster, and he needed someone to help him. But when he was in his Netflix world, he was very comfortable, and he planned everything out. And I'm like, Mom, like, Grandpa made streaming work for him on a Dell PC with Windows XP on it, and I put Netflix on your iPad, and you're not using it. And all you have to do is, but you just point at things. You just push them, and things pop up. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. I've just been knitting. And I'm like, oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.